Mike Mangini
Yes.
of wonderful Dream Theater. So tell us a little bit about what kind of show people can expect tonight.
They can expect an experience. The band has spared no expense. We are bringing a show that by right is the show you bring into an 18,000 seat venue, into 1,100 seat places, 7,500 seat places, 5,000 seat places, and then the bigger places too. But we bring the whole thing. What it is an experience from the time you walk in until the time you leave. It's almost like the whole thing is set to video,
Right.
which it is. The whole 3-hour show has an entire program going on behind us. So we have to be so spot on every night. I can't miss a thing. Because if I'm off by 10,000 milliseconds, or even I make a mistake or do something, it just blows the whole thing out of proportion.
So there's no stress at all.
You know what? I got to tell you something. This is part of what I do. I did it with Steve Vai. With Steve Vai, I told him, Steve, I can play to external time sources. You know, the sync with the videos, you get the little blip and this and that and all that stuff. You know, I had metronomes and ADAT machines and sequencers that were all like a sequencer won't play at 140 beats a minute. It's 140.8. So you have to stop the other machines to get that to go. So that was extra heavy, and we're not doing anything that, like that complicated that I have to switch. But the point is, it's an extremely meticulously worked out show, to the point that everybody, every single night, to the back of the venue is staying all night, and they have their hands over their heads, and there's a lot more women and children than there ever have been. There's like a lot of females. That's really, and it's wonderful to see that. You girls, I'm telling you, or you guys that you have your girlfriends, or you want to bring a date, and normally, a Dream Theater thing is thought of as progressive. It's in that genre with all the progressive bands that have mostly guys in the audience. But it's not like that with Dream Theater, because there's so much melody and so many other things that relate to people, and there are just a lot more, so many, that 3 interviewers in Europe asked me. So we noticed there's a lot of women here that we didn't see. Like, what's going on?
That's one thing I wanted to touch upon. You look at some bands that have been around for a while, and they seem to go from an arena down to a theater, down to a club, and Dream Theater seems to be going the opposite way. You seem to be getting bigger every year, and is it because you're bringing in new fans, like the women and like the children? Because that's your next...
Well, I'll tell you what, when you study marketing, business, and this and that, since the documentary, the drummer documentary, the fan base has more than tripled online.
Yeah.
It's way over a few million, and it wasn't there before. So that kind of exposure, think about bands that are who they are because of MTV, because of a television.
Right.
And so now we have YouTube, and there's a documentary that got a lot of press. And for some reason, these people that we are translated to people.
Right.
And that's when maybe somebody showed their wife or girlfriend, this is the band that I like, and they're like, oh, I want to go. I'm telling you.
No, because I've seen Dream Theater here maybe 5 times, and I think the first time I saw it was at a place with like 800 people, and then we moved up to a place with 2,000 people, or 18,000. What a meteoric rise. you just...
Yeah, and I'm telling you, they had Dream Theater chosen Bubbles, instead of me, it's still that the exposure really, really rocketed everything up, and our personalities came through, and it made a big difference.
Yeah, so let's talk Mike a little bit here. You've been in Annihilator, a Canadian band, Extreme, you played with Steve Vai that you mentioned. How do you adjust your styles? Because you've got sort of a pop band and then a progressive band. How do you adjust for all these different situations?
It goes to, I think for all of us, it goes to childhood. I grew up in a very disciplined situation where the most important thing is the right thing to do, whether you like it or not. And that's when people get wars over what's right or wrong, right? But in general, with your conscience, you got to do the right thing. And the thing for me that I was taught musically was when someone else composes music, it's theirs. You learn the part and play. And I was brought up orchestrally. The sheet music's on the paper. You don't interpret that.
Right.
And put your selfish ways ahead of the composer. You play what you're told. So for me, there's music that I like, I learn the previous catalog, and I adjust it for me. I do, but I don't change the essence. And so, in effect, that's what I do. That's why it's been easy for me to do it.
Is there a style that you prefer more? I mean, were you a bigger Extreme fan than a Dream Theater fan, or vice versa?
Look, I just have to say this, and it'll sum it all up. My heart is going to dictate for me some things that I can't fake it. I mean, I can't think certain things to change what I love, right? None of us really can. So I constructed this massive kit when I wasn't playing with anybody in the 2000s with multiple bass drums and different cymbal arrangements to follow the music orchestrally. What I thought to myself was, I have not been able to use something like this in the past because of either a band's budget or because people in the band don't want me to have all those drums.
Right.
Who am I going to play with? And then I got a chance to audition for Dream Theater. Those guys said, bring more, do whatever you want. Bring this to another level and be you, because you're the right guy for this, because you like metal and you're trained, and I get along with people.
Right.
So I'm in the best situation.
So let's look at your relationship with Dream Theater. You came in on the last album, and the album was pretty much already built up and constructed. Yep. John Petrucci had pretty much composed. Yep. And you sort of played over beats that were there, adding a little personality. Now on the new album,
not quite, but
okay. So correct me there.
Well, I'll correct you in that. I asked, first of all, they wanted to do what they had always done minus a drummer, meaning,
right,
unless the drummer shows up with a demo of a song, they didn't write the song, okay?
Correct.
The songwriters wrote it. The people on the instruments who dictated F sharp, B flat, or this are writing that tune.
Okay.
Now the thing is, they wanted to do that without me there because I was so new.
Right.
And that they wanted to keep the essence of what they already did going, including the Mike's influence in what he would have done on the drums, because he was heavily involved in the process, correct? So that anyway,
which is another stress for you,
from a drummer's perspective, anyway. So the bottom line is that they still write on those instruments. They wanted to do it. John did me a favor, programming basic beats and saying, look it. I kind of want a half-time here and I want a full-time here, but play whatever you want. I played anything I wanted. No one should think that I went in and learned these parts.
Okay.
I did not do that. I got what is important to me, which is the composer's viewpoint, which I wanted to satisfy as a human being before I'm a drummer.
Gotcha.
To be a better person.
Gotcha.
So I did that, and I interpreted it, and John and I worked through it together. He decided what he thought I did that was the better thing and took it. That's what that was.
But as you come into
this record...
Right, that's what we're getting to.
This record, no. We had been together for a while jamming, so we know... I'm a pattern guy.
Right.
I do mathematics, and I recognize patterns. I recognize people's patterns.
Gotcha.
That's how I learned to be friends with them. So we knew each other's patterns, and we more, in a fluid way, played things such that we knew where to go and where not to go. And I was asked to birth things, come up with things to birth it, so that music was written to those particular beats, which is part of a composition. That's how you become a composer as a drummer if you don't play, on an instrument. But I also had an iPad and was learning their parts so I could contribute perhaps a key signature suggestion, which I did in a minuscule way, maybe 3 times out of 400. But I did have ideas, and that's what I did. We were there together jamming, based off of feelings, based off of impromptu things. A lot of that stuff is on the record. Was
there a pressure to sound like classic Dream Theater, or was there a pressure on the other side to be completely different than, and just say, no, you got to take this a whole other way?
I'm not going to say there was a pressure to sound like classic Dream Theater. There's an obligation to do it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not a fan of a band that just all of a sudden comes out with a folk record and I want to hear some bone-crunching metal. I don't want to hear that from I Go By an Annihilator record. I want Jeff Waters to do what Jeff does, or I'm going to be not so happy with the record. So it's an obligation to sound the way the band sounds. But it's natural for me, I'm from the drum perspective, and they're still the same guys, so clearly it's natural for them. It was a no-brainer.
Now, while you were out of rock a little bit,
Yeah, I was.
You were at Berklee.
11 years.
Teaching.
11 years.
How was that experience to actually get up and try to convey to a student, I mean, can you actually tell us, here's how you play, or are we talking more about inspiration? How did you approach that as was an associate professor?
Yes, I came in as an associate professor, and then I became the head department advisor, which meant that I was basically a part-time psychologist or psychiatrist, but I don't have a degree in that. So I'm leery of like the new movement in colleges to have people that hit things for a living propose to talk to some kid about their issues. That's just not cool with me. It is not right.
You're right.
I just shouldn't do that. But anyway, I was the head, I was one of the department heads. There was two of us. I went to the meetings to gather the new information, and students were able to come to me to speak, which was a good move because I did study the human brain and relationships, which is why I was put in that position. But still, it's not my full job, and I wanted to be careful of that. Anyway, so I wasn't just teaching there.
But was it scary? Because, when you're in a teaching position, you can get tenure, you have a responsibility, you can stay at home with the wife and kids, and then all of a sudden you're like, let's go back on this rock and roll beast.
Here's the deal.
Okay.
I'm going to make this, so I hope it inspires people too.
Okay. Because it can be scary.
First of all, we're people before we have jobs.
Right.
The jobs are not as important as family and spiritual things.
Agreed.
Okay?
I agree.
A job comes third in life.
Agreed.
I could be a carpenter and still be a happy guy and play the drums on the side. All right? But to make a living at it, it's not easy.
Okay.
So people take teaching positions, which I did, to be stable and to be that.
And that's what I mean. You're giving up that stability to come into it. I mean, after the first album, Dream Theater could have said, it didn't really work out. Thank you.
That's right. Well, here's where I'm getting to, and I want to inspire people and have them inspire me. We're all born a certain way with things that we know that we love, and there's nothing we can do about it. I think it's a person's obligation before they die to do something with the gifts they've been given.
Sure.
Now, the biggest sin in the world to me is when people are oppressed and don't even have that ability. When you're oppressed in some way, you can't afford the piece of equipment. You're talented, but no one's going to help you. That's a very sad thing.
Agreed.
So for me, I didn't grow up with whatever I needed, all right? But I got it over time, like an extra drum or whatever. Still, though, I have to go to work.
Yeah.
So it's my obligation to fulfill what I know I should be fulfilling, and that's what I'm doing now with Dream Theater. That's why it was a no-brainer. Not only that I left to do this, but I had walked across the street to the church that's right across in Berklee. 4 days a week, I prayed. I absolutely did. I said, all right, I've been here like for 5 years or so. That's it. But I was there another 5 or 6, wanting to go and do this and fulfill this, hoping to kind of have the two work together, but I knew it wasn't going to. So in order for me to leave that position, either a drummer would have to die in a famous band, or some miracle or something would have to happen, because I couldn't just join a band and go in a van. I got to have a wife and kids. But it happened.
Yeah. And so how do you fit into Dream Theater right now? Are you a full member?
Yeah.
So you're not on this testing anymore. Now
No.
you're in full time.
It's a team in every sense of the word.
Were you around when you were Extreme when Gary was trying out for Van Halen?
We were there together.
Okay.
I was there.
Can you tell me a little bit?
I was in LA. I was with him.
Did you go to the tryout?
No.
But can you just bring us back a little bit to that discussion about what was going on? I mean, did he go in knowing that he was going to get it? Was there some fear?
With Gary and Van Halen.
Yeah.
He was just asked to be in the band, period. I don't think there's no audition for him.
There was no audition? There was nothing?
No, he showed up to LA with his Samsonite black suitcase and his little briefcase. He travels lightly, and that's exactly what he left with. Because he came to see me when he quit. As I was going on tour with Steve Vai, and we were in the tour bus, and Gary said, please come to lunch with me. Gary, we're leaving in 2 hours. He said, he's my brother.
Right.
He says, I'm coming to pick you up, and we're going to lunch.
Right.
He came and picked me up, and we went to lunch. And he said, I'm leaving LA. Here's what happened at the beginning. Nuno quit Extreme.
Right.
Okay, done. Within the same, I think it was the same 2-week time frame after that, Steve Vai asked me to join up with him, and Eddie asked Gary to be in Van Halen in the same 2-week period. And we were both in Boston
Like preordained or something.
eating sushi, watching the Boston Bruins. Hi, Montreal. You know, watching the Boston Bruins.
We don't like them.
And then, this is awesome. I love hockey fights. And then next thing you know, we're playing pool in LA going, how did we get here? There wasn't any audition for him. He was asked to be in the band.
What do you think of that album? I happen to like it, actually. So
I just have to say that to me, it's extremely convoluted, and it's not Gary's fault, and it's not Eddie's fault. It's nobody's fault. It was the situation, from what I know, it was the situation for them was very unstable and fragmented. So you're working on things over here with a different producer or a different guy or a different situation. Well, that's how the record came out. They weren't in there doing it. That's what I know. And so that it makes sense to me that the record for me was a little here and there. But it's my friend there, and I love Van Halen, so I like it.
that song Without You is good. Now, we've just been told to wrap up, so quickly, where do we go next with Dream Theater? The last time was September 2013, so how long in this touring cycle before we start thinking about?
Put it this way. Let's just say stations pick up The Looking Glass. If stations pick up The Looking Glass, which we have a free video for online, that could propel us to jump into arenas all over the place just from that exposure. And if radio stations play it, we'll be touring for a lot more.
Okay.
So it depends on if you know, radio has the. If they hear about us or they like it or they say, wait a minute, listen to what this band is doing. The lyrics are healthy, the music shows spirit, and you know, work on your craft, like David Grohl said at the last, the Grammy that they beat us. The Foo Fighters won, right? Last time? Not this past time. But they beat us, but Dave Grohl's like, practice your instrument. I think people should get out of the fast food, hurry up world and find the joy in working hard. If radio program directors become people of this philosophy, they can change the world. And we hope that happens, that we're a part of it, because generations are judged 1,000 years later on art. They are. We're going to be judged on our art, because the art means it dictates how we treated each other. If we become a society of ugliness and theft and pornography all over the place, like, you know, if everything's quick and online and just things that mess up the mind, then and we fight, that's what we're going to be judged by. And we want to be people that change that and do good things with good lyrics and all that stuff. That's my opinion.
I think you're doing that. Well, thank you, Mike.